I refused to co-sign a loan for my sister. She screamed that I owed her my life. She said I owed her everything, but then my husband stepped in and said one sentence that made her collapse in tears. I read it. I'm Alina, 40F, and this happened a few months ago, but it's still sitting heavy with me. I wasn't even going to post this at first, but I've replayed the moment over and over in my head, and I need to get it out. Let's just say this whole mess revolves around family, guilt, and a lifetime of being the responsible one. I grew up in a very complicated household. I was the older sister, the fixer, the babysitter, the one who always should have known better. My younger sister, Celeste, 37F, was the golden girl in my parents' eyes, or maybe more like the fragile vase they thought would shatter if anyone even looked at her wrong. Celeste was the dramatic, dreamy, always in trouble one, and I was the quiet one in the background, doing dishes while our mom rushed out to bail her from whatever latest mess she got into. I'm not exaggerating when I say that growing up, it felt like Celeste could have set the house on fire and my mom would have asked me why I gave her matches. Despite all of that, I tried. I've always tried. I helped Celeste study. She quit college after one semester. I let her crash at my apartment when she got evicted twice. I even loaned her a few thousand when her artisanal tea cafe failed, and I knew in my gut that money was gone the moment I handed it over. Now, I'm married to a wonderful man, Ronan, 43M, who's just as steady and grounded as I try to be. We both work full-time, no kids, but we live modestly and keep a tight budget. We're not rich. We've just been careful and consistent. This whole mess started when Celeste showed up at our place with her usual dramatic flair. Think tears already in her eyes, mascara halfway down her face, and a crumpled manila envelope in her hand. I should have known. Alina, I need a huge favor, she said, flopping onto my couch like a wilted flower. Ronan was in the kitchen, pretending not to hear. He knows the drill by now. I've been approved for a small business loan, she started, eyes wide, like I was supposed to burst into applause. They just need someone to co-sign. No, how are you? No, can I sit? Just straight to the ask. I stayed quiet for a second, just long enough for her to rush in and start explaining the vision. Apparently, she wanted to open a mobile nail studio. She had it all planned out: vintage camper, luxury Monty Python, eco-friendly polishes, custom playlists for clients. And then came the line I've heard more times than I can count. This is finally my chance, Alina. I just need someone to believe in me. I sighed. I didn't want to be the villain. I never do. But I've learned the hard way that believing in Celeste usually comes with a hefty price tag. Celeste, I can't co-sign a loan for you. The room went quiet. Still, her face twisted like I'd slapped her. What? I'm sorry. I really am. But it's just not something I can risk. She shot up like someone had lit a match under her. You can't, or you won't. Because it sounds a lot like you won't, Alina. And that's rich, considering everything I've done for you. I blinked. Everything what are you talking about? I've been there for you. She cried, arms flailing like she was delivering a monologue. When mom and dad were losing it, who held the family together? Me. When you got dumped by that loser in college, who stayed up all night with you? Me. I gave you so much, and now when I need one thing, you won't help me. I had to clench my jaw to keep from laughing. Not because it was funny, but because I was stunned. Genuinely stunned. Ronan stepped out of the kitchen at this point, leaned on the doorway, arms crossed. I could tell he was holding back. I'm not trying to be cruel, I said. But you're asking me to risk my credit, our finances, on something that isn't stable. This isn't personal. It's practical. Celeste's eyes narrowed. Of course it's personal. Everything with you always is. You think you're so much better than me because you married some guy with a salary and a house and a stable life. You think you're too good for your own family. At that point, Ronan spoke. Calmly. Low and steady. Celeste, he said, do you even hear yourself? She whirled around to face him. Oh, here we go. Let me guess. You've been poisoning her against me since the wedding, haven't you? That's when he walked forward, looked her straight in the eye, and said something that made her knees actually give out beneath her. Celeste's face was already flushed, her breathing ragged, but the second Ronan stepped forward, It was like something shifted, not in a loud, dramatic way. It was quiet. Still. He looked at her, not with anger, not even with pity. Just a kind of firm sadness, like someone about to tell you something you're not ready to hear. Celeste, he said again, his voice even. You keep saying Alina owes you, that she's turning her back on you. But here's the truth. You don't even know what she's already given up for you. She blinked. What does that even mean? Her voice cracked in that way it does when she's gearing up for more theatrics. But Ronan didn't let her derail it. You think this is about a loan, he continued, but it's not. You've built your whole life assuming that Alina would pick up the pieces after you. That if you fell, she'd just clean it up, no questions asked. And she has. Over and over. But you never once asked what that cost her. Celeste stared at him, and for once, didn't have a response. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse her. That somehow made it worse, made it land harder. And that's when her body just folded. Not like she fainted or anything dramatic. But she sort of stumbled back onto the couch, like her legs couldn't hold up the weight of everything she'd just heard. The silence that followed was heavy. You could hear the soft hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the old wall clock above the doorway. I just stood there, unsure of what to say. I hadn't expected him to say it. I didn't even realize how much I'd wanted someone to finally see it, to say it out loud. Celeste sat there with her hands clenched in her lap, eyes shining. She wasn't crying exactly, but the way she stared at the floor, it felt like the fight had left her body all at once. She said nothing for a full minute. Then, in a quiet voice, she asked, "What do you mean, what she gave up?" Ronan glanced at me like he was checking in, like he'd said his piece and didn't want to speak for me. I took a deep breath, feeling something rise in my throat that I'd buried for way too long. "You remember when I wanted to study abroad?" I asked her, my voice quieter than I expected. She nodded slowly. "In college?" "Yeah. You were going to go to Scotland or something." "I got accepted," I said. "Had everything lined up. Scholarships, grants. But then Mom called me one night in a panic because you'd totaled her car and didn't have insurance. She said if they didn't fix it, Dad would lose his job. She said you were just a kid, and it wasn't fair to punish you. So I pulled out of the program and gave them my tuition refund. I told them I'd changed my mind." Her eyes widened slightly, lips parting. "You never told me that." "I wasn't supposed to," I said. "Mom said it would only make you feel bad, and I didn't want to guilt you. I figured you were going through a lot, and maybe it was just a one-time thing." I gave a soft laugh. Not bitter, just tired. But it never was. Every time something happened, I was the fallback. You'd bounce from job to job, from boyfriend to boyfriend, and I'd be the safety net. You always landed, because someone else was catching you. Celeste didn't speak. Her hands were shaking now, fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. Her mouth opened a few times like she wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. I didn't want to pile on. I wasn't trying to destroy her, but I also wasn't going to keep pretending everything was fine. "Do you remember when I had to take that job at the hospital downtown?" I asked. "The one that was night shifts, an hour away?" She nodded slowly. "You said it paid better." "It did, but I didn't want it. I was exhausted all the time. I hated the commute. I missed Ronan's birthday that year. But I took it because Mom told me you needed help with Rin again. And I didn't have the heart to say no." At this point, Ronan gently reached for my hand. I didn't even realize I'd started tearing up until I felt the warmth of his palm. Celeste sat there, motionless. For a moment, it looked like she was about to apologize. But then something flickered in her eyes, shame, maybe, or stubbornness, and her jaw clenched. "I didn't ask you to do all that," she said, barely above a whisper. I nodded. "You're right. You didn't. But you also never stopped anyone else from asking on your behalf." The room felt cold suddenly. Not physically, just emotionally stripped bare. Like we'd opened a window no one wanted to look through. Celeste wiped at her cheek, then stood. She was unsteady, like she wasn't sure what to do with herself. She walked toward the kitchen, paused halfway, then turned back. I thought family was supposed to show up for each other." I met her eyes. "We are. But showing up doesn't mean losing yourself for someone who won't even stay long enough to say thank you." And just like that, she turned and walked out the door. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because 2 days later, I got a call from our mother. And she had a few things to say about loyalty, shame, and how I had betrayed the family. 2 days after Celeste left our house, I was cleaning up after dinner when my phone rang. The caller ID lit up with Mom, and I just froze. Ronan looked up from the sink, saw my face, and immediately turned off the faucet. "You don't have to answer that," he said gently. But I did. Or at least I felt like I had to. Because that's how it's always been. With my mom, ignoring a call wasn't just impolite, it was disrespectful. A personal attack. A declaration of war. I picked up, bracing myself. "Hello." There was no "Hi, sweetheart," or "How are you?" No small talk. Just the sound of her sharp inhale followed by, "I cannot believe what I just heard." I shut my eyes for a second. "Hi, Mom." "Don't you hi, Mom me." Celeste came over here in tears. "She said you threw her out. She said Ronan humiliated her." Of course. Celeste didn't tell her what really happened, just enough to make herself look like the victim. Again, she wasn't thrown out, Mom. She left after a conversation she didn't want to hear. You told her she was a burden, that she's selfish and irresponsible and ruined your life. I blinked. That's not what I said. You said it with your actions, Alina. With your cold tone. With your refusal to help your own sister. She came to you in need, and you shut her down like a stranger. I sat down at the kitchen table, pressing my hand to my forehead. Mom, she asked me to co-sign a loan. That's not a small favor. That's putting our entire financial stability on the line. She scoffed. Oh, please. Ronan makes good money. Don't act like you'd be out on the street. There it was. That casual dismissal of anything related to my boundaries, my life. To her, Ronan's paycheck was just a resource to be tapped into. My marriage, my planning, my careful budgeting, all just background noise. We're not rich, I said firmly. We've worked hard for what we have, and we're not willing to risk it on another one of Celeste's dreams that she walks away from when it gets hard. That's when her tone changed from furious to icy. Well, I see you finally decided you're too good for us. Living in your nice little house with your perfect little husband, looking down on the rest of us. You know, I always knew you'd turn your back on this family one day. Just like your father. That one hit me in the gut. Hard. Because my father did leave. When I was 15, he packed a bag one night and never came back. And the story, as Mom told it, was always the same. He gave up on us. He walked away because we weren't enough. I spent years resenting him. Years believing I had to be the opposite of him. Loyal. Constant. Unmoving. No matter what it cost me. But now, I wasn't so sure anymore. I'm not turning my back on anyone, I said, quieter this time. I'm just not willing to be the one who carries it all anymore. There was silence on the line. Then Celeste said something to me last night, Mom said. She said you made her feel like trash. That you looked at her like she was nothing. I didn't say she was nothing, I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. But she's not a child anymore, Mom. She's 37, and she still acts like the world owes her something. Like I owe her something. You do, she snapped. After everything she's been through, what has she been through? I interrupted, louder than I meant to. Seriously. What? Bad breakups? Failed businesses? All of which she chose? And somehow, I'm the one who pays for it every time? Why is that, Mom? Another silence. Tense. Charged. Then she said, because you can handle it. That's simple. That casual. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was finally out loud. Right? I said. Because I'm the strong one. So it's fine if I'm miserable. It's fine if I give up my dreams, my money, my time, my peace, because I won't fall apart. That's the logic, isn't it? Don't twist my words, she muttered, but her voice had lost some of its sharpness. I didn't say anything. I think part of me was waiting for her to backtrack, to soften, but she didn't. Instead, she ended the call with something that should have hurt more than it did. I'm disappointed in you, Alina. You've changed. And then she hung up. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the table, the phone still in my hand. Ronan came over and sat next to me, didn't say anything, just put his arm around me and let me be quiet. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me settled. Not in a peaceful way. More like the way dust settles after an explosion. The morning after that phone call with my mom, I was sipping coffee at the kitchen island, still emotionally hungover, when I got an email from HR at my job. Subject line: follow up on recent inquiry. I work in healthcare administration, not glamorous, but stable. I've been with the same hospital for 8 years, moved up steadily, earned trust. It's not a job I ever brag about at parties, but it's mine, and I take pride in it. So when I opened that email and saw that someone had anonymously submitted a complaint about me, using patient records to assist family members with insurance claims, my stomach flipped. It was worded professionally, but the implication was serious. HIPAA violations are not something you play around with. Even a hint of misconduct can land you in serious legal trouble or, at the very least, get you fired. I read it twice, then a third time. The complaint had no dates, no specific names, just the accusation and a short paragraph about concerns regarding familial favoritism and potential access to restricted files. Ronan saw my face and immediately came over. "What is it?" he asked, crouching next to me. I showed him the email. He read it, slowly. Then he said, "You think this is Celeste?" At first, I didn't. I wanted to believe it was some weird misunderstanding, maybe even a disgruntled patient. But the phrasing, it was too pointed, too specific to my life. Familial favoritism? That wasn't a phrase a stranger would use. Celeste didn't know much about my job, but she did know one thing. I handled insurance paperwork for patients and had access to the hospital's billing software. Enough for her to spin a story, especially if she wanted to make things difficult for me. And she must have figured that if she couldn't get what she wanted from me directly, she could try to rattle the foundation I stood on. Take away my credibility. Threaten my stability. Hit me where she thought I couldn't fight back. I spent the next week under a microscope. HR called me in for an interview. I brought every log, every report, every shred of evidence to prove that I hadn't touched anything outside my caseload. IT backed me up. My manager, who's known me for years, was quietly furious on my behalf. "Don't worry," she told me. "We've seen stuff like this before. Someone's trying to mess with you. But your records are clean." Still, it rattled me. Because if Celeste was willing to go that far, what else was she capable of? And that's when something clicked. Something I hadn't looked at in years. The savings account my dad had set up for me before he left. It was meant for college, originally. He couldn't give much, but he tried. It sat dormant for years because Mom told me it was untouchable and that she closed it after he walked out. I never thought much about it. I trusted her at the time. But that week, with everything Celeste stirred up, I decided to finally look into it. Just a small voice in the back of my head saying, "Check. You need to know." I called the credit union, waited through the whole awkward verification process. And then the woman on the line said something that chilled me. "Oh, that account was closed 6 years ago. Looks like it was cashed out in person by Celeste M." I didn't even hear the rest. I sat there, hand gripping the edge of the counter so tightly my knuckles hurt. That money, what little there was supposed to be mine. It wasn't much. A couple thousand, maybe. But it was mine. My dad gave it to me. It was meant for my future. And she took it. 6 years ago. Right around the time she claimed she needed money to get back on her feet after that whole incident with her last failed business. I'd asked Mom for help back then. I was trying to take night classes to finish my degree, and we were stretched thin. She told me there was nothing left from Dad, that it was all gone. Celeste took it, and no one ever said a word. That was the moment something inside me shifted. It wasn't just anger. It was a deep, sharp clarity. The kind you feel when you finally realize something's been wrong for a long time, and that it's time to stop playing defense. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. And I wasn't going to fight fair anymore. If Celeste wanted to play dirty, fine. But she forgot one thing. I know her secrets too. And she had left more than a few things wide open, thinking I'd never use them. So I started planning. Not for revenge in the explosive movie-style sense. No, I went quieter. Smarter. I began gathering everything. Emails, messages, a spreadsheet of every time I'd lent her money, Venmo receipts, screenshots. The fake GoFundMe she launched under a different name when she claimed she needed emergency dental surgery that never happened. I still had the post she deleted after people started asking for proof. But that wasn't the only thing I found. Because Celeste had recently started working as a freelance business consultant, which, from what I could tell, meant she was getting people to send her money for vague advice and investment opportunities that didn't exist. And one of those people was an old high school friend of mine named Fallon. She reached out after seeing something I posted privately, asking, "Hey, is your sister legit? She's been pressuring me to put money into some crypto startup she says you vouched for." I never vouched for anything. I asked Fallon to forward me the messages. She did. And that's when I knew I had everything I needed. I wasn't going to destroy Celeste. I was going to let her destroy herself. I was just going to make sure she didn't take anyone else down with her. But first, I had to confront her. In person. And I already had the perfect opportunity. Mom's birthday dinner was held at her house, the same one Celeste and I grew up in. Same crooked chandelier in the dining room. Same water-stained wallpaper she'd always meant to replace but never did. There were 8 of us. Mom, her boyfriend Dan, a quiet man who mostly kept his head down, Celeste, me, Ronan, and a few extended family members. From the moment we arrived, I could feel Celeste's eyes on me. She greeted Ronan with her usual fake sweetness, but didn't say much to me, just a tight-lipped smile and a glance that said, "I'm watching you." Fine. Let her. Dinner was pot roast, soggy green beans, and tension. Lots of it. Mom was in high spirits, probably because Celeste had been in her ear all week, spinning her version of events. I played along, kept my voice even, passed the rolls when asked. But when dessert was served and everyone was leaning back in their chairs, comfortable, I took my moment. I reached into my bag, pulled out a slim folder, and placed it on the table in front of me. "Before we wrap up," I said, "I have something I need to address. And I'd rather say it here, now, while everyone is present, so there's no confusion." The room went still. Mom looked confused. Celeste's posture stiffened instantly. "What is that?" she asked. I looked directly at her. "This is a timeline. With receipts, bank statements, texts, messages, all of it." Celeste let out a short, humorless laugh. "Oh, come on. Are we doing this now?" "Yes," I said, calmly. "Because I've let too many things slide. I've watched you manipulate people, lie about money, take things that weren't yours, including that savings account Dad set up for me. You told Mom you didn't know what happened to it, but you closed it 6 years ago. I spoke to the credit union." Mom blinked. "Wait, what?" Celeste's smile faltered. "And you tried to get me fired," I went on. "That anonymous complaint? HR traced the IP. Guess who's it matched?" Now Mom looked back and forth between us. "What is she talking about?" "I didn't," Celeste started, but Ronan interrupted her. "You did," he said firmly. "And you crossed a line. You went after Alina's job. You risked her entire career because she wouldn't sign her name on something you couldn't afford." Celeste's voice sharpened. "You think you're better than me because you married someone with a steady income? Because you two play house while the rest of us actually struggle? That's not what this is about," I said. "This is about accountability. You've been taking from me for years, Celeste. Time, money, energy, trust. And every time, you twist it so I end up the villain for finally saying no." "I needed help," she snapped. "I've always needed help." "No," I said, "you needed consequences. And now you're getting them." I turned to Mom. "I'm not asking you to pick sides. I'm just telling you that I'm done. I'm not co-signing loans. I'm not covering for her. And if either of you tries to pull anything like this again, I will pursue legal options." Celeste laughed again, but this time it cracked around the edges. "You're not serious." And that's when Ronan leaned forward, looked her straight in the eye, and said the sentence that finally broke through the performance. "You keep saying Alina owes you everything, but the truth is, you've drained her dry. And now she's done letting you feed off her. Celeste's mouth opened, then shut again. Her face flushed. She looked like she wanted to scream, cry, run, or maybe all three. But instead, she just sat there, eyes shiny, staring down at her plate like it had betrayed her. And then, she started crying. Real tears. No screaming. No tantrum. Just silent, shaking tears while the rest of the table sat in stunned silence. No one rushed to comfort her. Not even Mom. For once, the room wasn't bending around her feelings. No one was running in to rescue her from the fallout of her own choices. After a long pause, Mom cleared her throat. I think dinner's over. We left shortly after that. A few days later, Celeste blocked me, which was probably the healthiest boundary she's ever set. She hasn't spoken to me since, though I heard through the grapevine that she moved back in with a friend from college, someone who apparently also ended up cutting ties 2 months later. Mom hasn't apologized, but things have been quieter. She stopped pushing Celeste's problems onto me, and I've stopped feeling like I owe her updates or explanations. I stayed at my job. My record was clean, and HR even filed a note in my favor, just in case anything else popped up. Ronan's been my rock through all of it. And the best part? I used every cent I'd planned to use to help Celeste to finish my degree. Ronan and I celebrated with takeout and a bottle of wine, just the two of us. I didn't invite anyone else. Because for once, I didn't feel guilty choosing peace. After everything that went down, I've been wondering, was I the a-hole in this situation? I know I had my reasons, and I can't say I'm sorry for standing up for myself, but looking back, I wonder if I could have handled it differently. I mean, Celeste had her issues, but was there a better way I could have approached it? Should I have tried to smooth things over with her, even after all the manipulative stuff she pulled? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Am I the asshole for cutting ties with her like that? Would you have handled it the same way, or differently?